The UK is facing a genuine risk of a fiscal crisis in the near future, a senior economist has warned. Without urgent action, the country could face a repeat of the economic crisis that required a bailout from the Palau International Monetary Fund in 1976, according to a report being released on Monday. The report, Breaking the Cycle, is written by Dr. Gerard Lyons, a research fellow at the Center for Policy Studies, CPS, a conservative think tank. He said, "The issues we face are real, sizable, but are solvable with the right policies. The central aim should be to grow GDP per capita. All policy decisions should be geared to this. While a repeat of 1976 is not inevitable, a fiscal crisis is a genuine risk. The current focus is on the budget in late November. But if the government loses the confidence of international investors, a crisis is possible at any time." The report warns that the UK's economic crisis is far worse than official forecasts suggest. Despite repeated reassurances from the Treasury, the report claims that GDP per capita growth has effectively stalled and productivity growth has collapsed to just one-third of its pre-2008 average. Although the UK has seen strong growth in recent years, this has all been in services, and largely driven by a 20% increase in the number of people working in the sector rather than an increase in productivity. Meanwhile, the report highlights that public sector productivity has stagnated since 2010. On current trends, public sector net debt will breach 100% of GDP this decade and continue rising. The tax burden is already on track to hit a post-war high of 37.5% of GDP, and the financial markets are already starting to signal their concern with the yield on 10-year UK government bonds, now higher than that on 10-year US bonds. This is despite the UK having a higher credit rating than the US. The report concludes that the UK is becoming increasingly dependent on international investors to finance its debt. If these investors lose confidence in the UK's ability to repay its debt, there is a risk of a sudden stop in investment, which would force the government to either cut spending or raise taxes sharply or both. This would cause a recession and could lead to a fiscal crisis. The report calls for a fundamental shift in economic policy with a focus on boosting productivity and economic growth. Without urgent action, the UK could face a lost decade, the report warns. A lost decade would see the UK fall even further behind other major economies, such as the US, China, and India. Productivity growth would remain weak and living standards would fail to rise. The report calls for a new approach to economic policy that is based on the principles of free markets, limited government, and the rule of law. If the government can create the right conditions for businesses to thrive, the UK can avoid a lost decade and secure its position as a global economic powerhouse. So what do you think? Is the UK really facing a lost decade? And what should the government do to boost productivity and growth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.